oh my gosh, is this it? I remember just having some time sitting in the office and I'm like, hi, yeah, so now this is work. These documents that I've sent, these 1 to 3 things that I'm doing, this is actually work. This is a job. Welcome to another episode of OMG Another Podcast. How are you? I hope you're doing well. It's November, so you know it's my birthday month. I'm turning very many years old, but I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to be well. Mumbi wants me to say. Mumbi abuses me because I'm a millennial, and she was hugging me because she did not know that once upon a time on Facebook, there was a concept of poking your friend. That once upon a time you could tweet through text, and it's a tweet and you have a whole conversation with people and just via text and you don't have to go through the app. Anyway, my age is showing, but thank you so much for being here. This is OMG What I'm Learning birthday edition. I just felt this is a good and fun way just to commemorate the month I was born, November. It's actually, as I record this, it's raining. So this is actually the mood most of the time for my birthday. It's always wet and rainy, which is so sad because I feel like I'm such a sunny girl. I'm a sun girl, so not this rain thing. And maybe this is why I appreciate the sun, because I was born during the rainy season. So happy birthday. Shout out to all November babies, my Scorps, and Sagittariuses, if you are into that kind of thing. So how I want to do this episode is just reflections as to who I was, through various stages of my life to where I am now. And I wanted to just have a look back into evolution and see if I've evolved, if I've grown, if I've changed. A lot of us, we say that we are the same but different, but I wanted to dive in and see if that's true. So I think I'll start with one of my funniest memories. When I was young, I was in kindergarten, and I loved school because school was fun then. You do coloring, you sing, and I was not those kids who struggled with waking up in the morning. In fact, on my first day of school, I literally waved to my mom goodbye, and she was there very teary, and I felt nothing. I was like, peace, girl, bye. I'm out of here. I've gone to school and I've started life. And, after the first week, everything was okay. I was very excited. I was making new friends. I didn't feel awkward. And then the weekend came, and then now on Monday, my mom woke me up and then she was like, oh, it's time to go to school. And then I was like, no, it's not. I went to school and now I'm done. As in, nimemaliza shule, because I went that other time. So I think in my head, the weekend kind of messed up with my head. And then I was like, no, I'm done with school. You said I'm going to school. So I went to school. That was fun. The weekend, my life reset back to being back at home. So I feel like... And then my mom had to explain to me the concept of no, this is now a thing you'll be doing. And I was quite confused and sad. I was like, no, not really. You can give back the books and the bag back to the teacher. I'm good. So in some ways, that reflection of me being in kindergarten made me realize that I'm the same. I'm quite cheeky. I still feel like I'm stubborn and I speak my mind. And my poor mother had to speak to a 3-4-year-old and convince her to actually go to school. And that I'm not done with school as I thought, and this is something that I would do for the next 20 years, give or take. If only I knew I'd play more and take my afternoon naps. Another memory I have during that in that season is that I remember I didn't like the lunch that the school provided, and I remember one particular meal really irked me, and that was ndengu and chapati. And I remember coming back to home and telling my mom that I don't want school lunch anymore. And she was like, why? Because we had an option that time in the school that I was in. You can either get your lunch brought to you from home, you can carry it, or you can obviously do the school lunch. So I think my parents had, done the whole shebang, and I was doing the school lunch. And so I said, no, the ndengu is watery and I don't like it. And I felt, and I also said, I don't get full. And I find that so funny looking back, because what does a 3-4-year-old know about recipe and how food tastes and the quality of the food? And this is not good for me. And that's how simply I was taken out of the school food program. And our nanny at that time used to bring me lunch every day that my mom had to cook in the morning. Or no, actually I wanted to say the one from the previous evening, but my mom was those moms who are very committed to, no, baby of mine will eat leftovers. So she would wake up, I think at 4 a.m. Kai, thank you, mom. I don't think I would do that as a mom now. And be so dedicated and make sure that we have fresh food every single day. So shout out to you. But I think the reflection and the lesson is that I think I've always been who I am: outspoken, bold, not shy, to be honest, very honest, very honest, um, and just unapologetic to be myself. But also, that means that I had safety back at home. I was allowed to be myself, and that was beautiful. So, shout out to 3-4 Ndengu Konosiwa Mukami. The next age group that really speaks to me and I think about growing up and I see if I've changed is when I was probably in early primary school. I was an overachiever. My sister makes fun of me to date because, I'm like a teacher's pet. And I'm usually the person seated there at the front and I want to participate. So, no, that has not changed. Even when I was doing my master's, I'm still a teacher's pet. I will do my assignments. I'll have a relationship with the teacher. I will be an overachiever. I'll get good grades. But I was actually offended. When I was doing my master's, I was, telling my parents about my results and they're like, yeah. They didn't care because I think for them it would be bigger news if I was failing. But because I was doing well, it's like, imagine. So reflection there is still a high achiever. I have unpacked about my high achieving tendencies and anxiety in the previous, I think, episode to this, but there is an episode about being a high achiever and having anxiety. So go check that out. So reflection here is, and moral of the story is, yes, I'm still a teacher's pet. Yes, I'm still a high achiever. And yes, I am so unapologetic about it. Another memory that comes to me as well is the preteen age. And that was when I was around, I think 11, give or take. And that's when I think my journey with hormonal imbalance and just reproductive health issues and hormone issues really started. I got my period very early. I think I was around 10, 11, which I find early. I know kids nowadays get their period as early as 8, but I got mine around that age. I think I'd also started, becoming curvier, forming boobs, having a bit of hips here and there. And then that was around the time I also developed nodular cystic acne. It was so bad. Could not even find a smooth spot on my face. That's why I have some scarring on my cheeks. So that's, I think, a monumental part of my growing up where I struggled with body issues. I was a bit curvier than my other friends and classmates. I struggled with acne. And so I feel like for the first time around that age is when my confidence took a bit of a dip. And I was actually not very happy with how I looked. Thank God for being the personality hire anywhere I go. So I still had my friends. People loved me, but I don't think I loved how I looked and how I felt because I just felt like I was developing faster than everyone else. And that was not cute to me. And that time we didn't have all the knowledge that we have now about skincare, taking care of yourself, all of that. So I went through a lot of years where I struggled with acne and my skin and face, and I didn't even know what having oily skin was, for example, because that's the kind of skin I have. I didn't understand what nodular cystic acne is, so I spent a lot of years in the dermatologist's office and then being told that it's just hormonal imbalance. But clearly, there's something bigger there, which obviously I think I'm a broken record now, but I will not stop advocating for the awareness of endometriosis, which is something that I was diagnosed many years later. Actually, I think 10 years later after the hormonal challenges started. So yeah, that's I think the first time I really dealt with body issues. And reflections on that, I'm happy with my body. I'm happy with who I am, have accepted who I am. But it did take a lot of time to get here. And also it did take a lot of time to deal with my image issues, especially when it came to my acne. So nowadays I see my face and sometimes I just say, thank you, God, because I've come from, like, it's been a long time coming. So yeah, that was the pre-teens. And then let's get into the teens. This is the years that I say I lost my mind. My older sister agrees and she says these are the years that I actually really lost my mind. I was a rebel. This is when I feel like I found my voice and my identity. And I was a hyper, if there's a hyper extrovert, I was that. So I was very outgoing. But these are the years also I struggled the most. For the first time, never struggled. I'm not even bragging. I never really struggled with my studies, but this is the first time I struggled with my studies. I was in a public school for the first time in my life and a boarding school. So if you've been, again, under 844, and you know the high school that I went to, you know the kind of trauma that we went through, and that was not cute. So I think for the first time, I was confused about who I am, my identity, but I knew I was a hyper extrovert. I just didn't know where to take that energy. These were the years where I felt most uncertain about who I was and what I wanted to do. But I feel like these are also the years that brought clarity into my calling, which is communications. I knew I wanted to be a communicator one way or another, through radio, through writing, through TV, through something. I just knew that that was my gift and my calling, and I discovered it, and it was really honed in around that time during my teens in high school. So there was a lot of suffering and trauma in high school. But I do feel like it did sharpen me into my identity and who I am. And yeah, but those were some dark days. That's when we started fighting with the folks, and it was not cute. It was not cute. And I think that's when I started also having like radical self-acceptance about who I am, and not just a good girl who did well in school. I also had a personality. I had an opinion. Of course, it was not that smart. I was 16, but give or take, those teenage years. So yeah, so those teenagers actually were not my best. I think I also have a bit of trauma. Sometimes, we discuss with my friends what we went through high school, and I'm just like, what? That happened? So there's some blank spaces there, but also made some lifelong friends and sisters from that time. The reflection, again, like I've said, is when I really found my voice. I found my calling. I found my purpose. I found what I'm meant to do. So yeah, there's a plus to that. So now the journey, we go into my young adulthood in 18, early 20s. And it was a mix of everything. I was excited, one, because I was in university doing pursuing now my dream career through education first. So I was very excited and happy to do that. I stopped feeling dumb because now I'm in an environment where I'm happy to do what I'm doing. I stopped struggling necessarily with my education. I did very well, and I was a happy lady, made amazing friends during, that time again, who are still lifelong sisters and friends. But it was also just a time it was when now I was finally diagnosed with endometriosis. I believe it was around 2021. And I had suffered so much in my teen years, like I mentioned, with hormonal imbalance, with pain, with just a lot of uncertainty about what this means. I remember just being so scared. There weren't so many resources that we have now about what endometriosis was, how to manage it, how to, advocate for yourself, what feels right for you, what doesn't feel right for you, for your body, and all those things. So it was a time of self-discovery, I would say. It was also a time of being thrown for the first time really with something that is, I would call, catastrophic for me personally and individually. So this was obviously bigger than dealing with the acne and like not feeling too happy about that. And now this meant, okay, so what does this mean for me moving forward? I had to take care of my health a bit extra. I had to work a bit harder to, have a healthy body, etc. So yeah, the early 20s were a bit challenging. This is when I started dating, seeing boys as well. Early 20s was fun, but it's also very challenging for my health. I feel like I relate my early 20s to me being unwell, being diagnosed with endo, and that being heavy. but also now trying to discover, like, okay, so now you're going after your dreams, you're doing the education. What does this mean? That was also the first time I got my first job ever, because I just wanted to. So luckily, the school I went to, you were able to choose evening classes. So during the day, I was interning at an advertising and PR agency, and that was fun. And that's how I got my foot into the door for my day job, in terms of what I do. So that was fun. Um, yeah, so it was the first time I got a salary. It was so good having money, no responsibilities. My parents didn't necessarily ask me for anything, so I was just a rich girl. It was a good time as well. Going into my mid 20s, I feel like that's when like life really got tough, because now at least I have a few years under my belt in terms of my career. I'm wondering if this is what I really want to do. That's when I doubled a bit into the newsroom, doing advertising, being exposed to PR, and really understanding what it is. And there was a bit of a disconnect for me from what I was learning in the classroom and what the industry really was. So, you can imagine being someone who is new into the job market. You're trying to find yourself. You're trying to see, like, oh my gosh, is this it? I remember just having some time sitting in the office and I'm like, hi, yeah, so now this is work. These documents that I've sent, these 1 to 3 things that I'm doing, this is actually work. This is a job. And now being grown up, and now you're not just hanging with your friends whenever you want, like in uni, and choosing the same classes and whatever. And now this is when now the reality of like, some of my friends flew out of the country after undergrad, for example, after graduation as well, after our undergrad studies. Other people went into completely different career choices. Others became entrepreneurs immediately after university. So I remember there was just a bit of like, ooh, is that, what is it like almost like an identity crisis? So what do I want from me? And remember, I had so many interests. I wanted to do PR. I wanted to do something to do with the media. I also wanted, to do advertising as well. So, but I'm lucky, for some reason, I was able to do a bit of everything. So I kind of knew where my strengths lied and what I wanted to do. And now, thankfully, in the industry, it's something that is called integrated marketing and communications, which is what I do best. So I'm able to bring my strengths together into my day job, and obviously through the podcast. So, but it was a tough time. That was also the time I went through my second and third surgeries regarding endometriosis. So that was tough. Really went through a dark period. There was a time I wanted to just quit my job and just stay at home, because I was so tired of not feeling well, not feeling great. And I was so tired of fighting. Remember, my mom said, like, no, just go through the motions, but, you'll pick yourself up and you continue. That was also the first time a man drove me into therapy. If you know me, I always say this. My heart was heartbroken. Like, I couldn't even believe, like, we're in love like that, and then you break my heart like that, and then you cheat on me. Ooh. Yeah, I think that was when the first time my view of love and people was distorted, and I was actually shocked. Because I'm like, what do you mean you love someone and then you hurt them in that way? And then especially infidelity. I don't know. Why was I living in my early 20s? Was I just, battling my health and just living life? I really didn't think that it would happen to me. I don't know why. It wasn't even like I think I'm more special or important. I just didn't think. Kwanzaa, the love that we had, you guys don't know the love that we had. The love that we had. There's no way this guy can betray me like that. Then I was betrayed. You know who you are as you watch this. And then now going into my late 20s, and that was also an interesting time, because now you're pivoting and you're becoming a bit more senior in your career and wondering, am I fulfilled? Am I still in the right path? Do I need to pivot? Oh my gosh, should I be getting married now? Is the person I'm seeing marriage material? Are we aligned? Now it stops being about also like good looks only. It's about character. It's about values. It's about compatibility. Hey, and then now things started becoming deep. Oh my God, I'm almost 30. Do I have a kashamba? Hey, am I aligned with my friends? Am I outgrowing people? Oh my God, it was a lot. It was a lot. So late 20s is so scary, because also remember, there's a big 3-0 where you're supposed to have achieved 1, 2, 3 things: the children, the husband, the kids, the shamba, the career. Now you should be high flying, etc. And then when I got there, I was like, I'm actually kind of confused. Does anyone have a manual on how we're supposed to be doing this? And then you just wake up and realize that actually, I don't think anyone really knows what they're doing. They just take a day at a time. And that's what I decided. And then I hit 30 and I didn't have the kashamba or the kids or the husband. And I remember wondering and asking myself, wait, am I unhappy or am I just feeling pressured because of external sources? And to be honest, I was content with where I was, who I am as a person. I've never let marriage and all those things define me. But obviously, everyone else around you just reminds you how you're missing milestones. It's like you're a kid and you're not crawling yet or you're not standing yet, and it's like, hey, yeah, time is ticking. And then obviously, everyone likes reminding you about your biological clock as a woman. But I did go back and I felt content in terms of what I was doing, but I wanted to do more. Then that's when I remember reflection time, thinking about, oh, what did I actually want to do with my life? And I was like, yeah, self-expression. Oh, maybe you should start the podcast. Yeah, and then that took years before it was even launched. So, and then where I am today. Ding. As a bouncing 32-year-old girl, I just feel so happy and blessed, and knowing when to give myself grace. I think that's one of the things that I have learned how to do recently, and I am at peace with who I am. I feel like, I don't know who told me this. I think one of my friends who said, if you knew better, you do better. So there's no way you are living your life, especially if you're as type A as I am, trying to sabotage your life in any way whatsoever. So you did your best with what you had, and obviously you know better, you do better. So today I can proudly say genuinely I am content with who I am. I'm content with the kind of person I am because I'm happy with who I am in. I can live in my skin and I'm happy about that. My health has become way much better. I'm not necessarily struggling. I've kind of figured out the dance with my body. I know what works. I know I need to exercise, and I know I need to eat right. I know what works and what doesn't. I'm more settled into who I am. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I've also done a lot of deep reflection. So there's nothing new necessarily you can come and tell me about me. And I'm like, what? Is that true? And I have just sat with myself and I've accepted myself fully. The flaws, the beauty, the places I would do better, the places I know I'm struggling with, that episode that I spoke about forgiveness, all those things. So I'm aware, and now I'm becoming, just coming home back to who I am. I'm so happy that this is the year that I launched this platform, this podcast that we can share. I thought it would be more scarier than this, because the whole point I didn't do it for all those years is because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared of being perceived. And I realized actually people don't care. Just put out your stuff, they'll consume, they'll support. But I don't know why I thought I'll get all this hate mail or comments. That's why you should not be in your head too much. So, but this year is so special because I finally did something that I really wanted to do for such a long time. And I'm happy doing it, and I'm still figuring it out. And seeing what this will be, what it will morph into, what it will grow into. It stretches me. It makes me think. I know it looks so easy because I'm such a yappa and I just talk and there's no script, but I do actually sit down and reflect and think about what I'm going to speak on. So in a way, it's almost like self-therapy. It's almost like journaling, and that's why I call this platform a video diary of some sort. So I share with you what I'm thinking, what I'm experiencing, and all that stuff. So as I go into my birthday, I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling blessed. I'm content with where life is. There could be more. Of course, I want a bigger car. Of course, I want a shamba. And when it comes to partnership and kids, I hope that's also in the cards soon. I would love that. But I also know that I never want to force things or do things that are disingenuous to who I am. So this is me. I'm Mukami Mora. Thank you so much for just being a part of this platform. Thank you for celebrating my birthday with me. And yeah, I guess that's what I'm learning in this episode. And thank you for being here. So I hope if one of your dreams is to also start your own platform, your own podcast, make sure that you reach out to Herway Studios. These are my production partners. And I just hope you have a lovely year, whether your birthday was in November like mine, twins, or it's in any other month. may you just be soft with yourself. May you accept yourself fully for who you are, flaws and all, beauty, scars, everything and in between. And I just hope you carry yourself with grace and hold yourself gently. The world is so rough. I hope you're the one person who holds yourself with as much gentleness as possible. So as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of this community. Make sure that you catch up with us on all our social media platforms. That is at OMG Another Podcast. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. You can catch up with this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube as well, if you want to see my face. And make sure you also catch up with all other episodes. Subscribe, like, share with your community, comment. We really love interacting with you. And thank you for everything. And I'm just looking forward to what this new year brings. Mwah!